Okay, before anything else, picture a folder, 3 game projects in it. One has a beautiful title screen and literally nothing behind it. One has combat, an inventory system, dialogue, and a boss fight, but no actual way to start the game. And one is just a text file called Notes, 40 bullet points long, with exactly one line of code underneath it. That folder belongs to basically everyone who has ever tried to make a game, including statistically you. I say that with love, because I've got a version of that folder too. Here's the part that took me embarrassingly long to figure out. The people who finish aren't the ones with the best ideas or the most talent or even the most free time. There was a small survey floating around the game dev community a while back. 100+ aspiring devs asked what was actually stopping them, and the top answers were not "I can't code" or "I'm not creative enough." Discipline and time were up there, sure, but sitting right next to them was something a lot more fixable: planning or the total lack of it. A surprising chunk of people who never finished a game never actually decided what finished was supposed to look like in the first place. So that's what we are fixing today. How to scope a first game small enough that finishing it stops being a miracle and starts being the default outcome. First, accept the law of nature. Your project expands to fill every hour you are willing to hand it. Doesn't matter how modest the idea is on day one. You start with a little puzzle game, and 4 months later, you are designing a crafting system, a day-night cycle, and lore for a side character who is on screen for 11 seconds. This is not a you problem, by the way. It happens to actual studios with actual budgets and producers whose entire job is stopping exactly this. You, alone with no producer, don't stand a chance unless you build a wall on purpose. Here's the wall. Before you even open your engine, describe your finished first game in one sentence. Not a pitch, not a vibe. An actual sentence. The player moves left and right, jumps and has to reach a flag before a timer runs out. If you can't do it in one breath, the game is too big. Full stop. Everything past that sentence. The story, the second mechanic, the multiplayer, the map that takes 40 hours to explore, doesn't get delayed forever. It just doesn't exist for version 1. It goes on a list I'm calling the someday pile, and we'll come back to it. And once you got that sentence, actually write it down somewhere. Doesn't need to be fancy. A notes app, an index card taped to your monitor, whatever. Projects don't usually balloon because someone consciously decided to add 10 new features. They balloon because the plan only ever lived in their head, and memory is a genuinely terrible source of truth. Write down the sentence plus your 2 or 3 core mechanics. Somewhere you'll actually see it. That's your entire design document. You don't need 40 pages. You need one paragraph you can't quite lie to yourself about. Next thing people get stuck on before writing a single line of anything: which engine to use. I get the appeal of researching this for 3 weeks straight. It feels productive. It isn't. For a first small game, pretty much any modern engine can do what you need. The honest move is to pick whichever one has the most tutorials for your specific genre and go. You are not gonna lose your dream game because you picked the wrong engine. You are gonna lose it by never opening one. Once you are in there, fight the urge to make anything look good yet. This is the step almost everyone skips, and it is the one that actually saves the project. Before art, before sound, before any polish, build the entire core loop out of gray boxes and default shapes. Platformer, that's a rectangle jump in between other rectangles. Ugly on purpose. The whole point is finding out whether the idea is actually fun before you've sunk 40 hours into making it pretty. Plenty of solo devs built their first playable version in a single weekend for exactly this reason. So they find out early if the core idea holds up, instead of finding out 8 months in, after the art's already finished, that the mechanic just is not fun. That's a much worse time to learn it. Then show the the gray box version to actual humans, not your mom, who will say it's amazing no matter what it looks like. Friends who will actually be honest with you, or even better, strangers in some Discord server who owe you nothing. Harsh feedback on an ugly rectangle costs you an afternoon. The exact same feedback on a finished game costs you the whole project. Back to that someday pile. Every feature you are tempted to add gets sorted into exactly 2 buckets. The game does not function without this and everything else. That second bucket is enormous, and that's fine. That's where it's supposed to live. Quick tip on sorting it. Cutting a level costs you way less than cutting a feature feature does, because a new mechanic touches your code, your UI, your art, and your testing, while a new level usually just reuses systems you've already built. When you are deciding what makes the cut, think systems first, content second. Here's the part people miss though. Cutting is not a one-time thing you do at the start. It's something you keep doing, especially once you fall behind. And you will, because everybody underestimates how long things take. When that happens, the instinct is to push the deadline back. Don't. Cut a feature instead. Move the finish line toward you rather than dragging yourself further out to meet it. None of this is permanent either. Once the small version is actually done and out in the world, you are completely allowed to go back and pull things off the someday pile. You just earned the right to, instead of borrowing against a game that doesn't exist yet. One more thing, because I think it actually matters. A lot of the pressure to make your first game the one comes from watching some solo devs launch trailer blow up online and assuming that's the normal outcome now. It isn't. For every viral indie success, there is a mountain of small, quiet, completely reasonable games that made a few $100, taught their creator everything, and led straight into a better second project. The economics at the top of this industry are just as lopsided as they are in most creative fields, and treating your first project like it has to be the exception is exactly what gets people stuck for a year and a half on something they never ship. Your first game's job is not to make you rich or discovered. Its job is to drag you through the whole pipeline. Idea, plan, ugly prototype, cuts, actual finished thing. One time, start to finish. So the second one is easier. And yes, I'm aware there is a real temptation right now for me to also get into engines in depth, or version control, or marketing, or the dozen other things that go into finishing a game. I'm not going to, because that would mean I scope crept my own video about not scope creeping your game, and the irony would genuinely end me. So quick recap, because I know some of you are already mentally redesigning a crafting system instead of listening. Describe it in one sentence and write that sentence down. Pick a tool and stop shopping for one. Build it ugly before you build it pretty. Sort everything into must-have or someday. And when you fall behind, cut instead of stretching the deadline. Do that and finishing stops being the exception and starts being just what happens. If you are scoping something right now, drop your one sentence in the comments. I genuinely wanna see how small people can get it. See you in the next one.